Bhagavathe Shri Ramanaya. Hari Om. Delighted to be here. To share my reflections on this series of talks, Ramana's Atma Vichara. In our scriptures, it is said only when ahankara or ego is removed, one attains the self-knowledge, Atma Jnana. And scriptures also say the ignorance have to go for the knowledge to take place. The ignorance have to be removed for the self-knowledge to take place. So here, on one hand, it is said ahankara or the ego has to go. And it is also said the ignorance have to go. So let's reflect on these two, and also let's see what is the path shown by Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi in order to do this. First of all, the ignorance have to go for the self-knowledge to take place. Normally, in the worldly sense, when the knowledge comes, the ignorance goes. When you don't know about something, you say, I'm ignorant of something. And when you get to know about it, then you say, my ignorance about that is no more. But when it comes to self, the ignorance has to go. Then the self-knowledge takes place. Now we need to connect with this ignorance which has to go, or ignorance which has to be removed, with ahankara which has to be removed. Because that is also said in scriptures. So are we talking about two different things to be removed, or are we talking about one and the same thing? Ahankara and ignorance. Interestingly, if you understand what is ignorance in terms of self-knowledge, then we will know whether ignorance and the ahankara are one and the same or two different things. So, ignorance with regard to self-knowledge is the wrong notions one has about one's own self. I am so and so, I am this body, I am this person. So, defining one's own self in terms of finite entities. It could be body, it could be mind, it could be intellect, and it could be anything which is related to this. So, using them to define one's own self is what is referred to as wrong notion about one's own self. So, this is what is known as ignorance when it comes to self-knowledge. So, defining one's own self in terms of finite entities is the wrong notion about one's own self. It is the ignorance about one's own self. And this is what is referred to in the traditional language in our scriptures as ahankara. Ahankara is imagining yourself as something which is other than yourself. Aham deham, I am this body, or dehatma bhava, the notion that I am this body, and notion that I am a person, that is what is known as ahankara. So, now it is evident that ahankara and ignorance are not two different things to be removed, is one and the same. Ahankara and ignorance of the self are one and the same. What is this ignorance? Collection of thoughts about one's own self. I am this, I am this, I am that, I am that, I am a person, I am so and so, I am like this, I thoughts and my thoughts. These thoughts are the thoughts which is said to be ignorance, which is said to be ahankara, which has to go, and when that goes, one comes to realize one's own self. Now let's try to understand what Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi has to say as to how you can remove this ahankara or ego. So here we are going to look at the verse number 19 of the text Upadesa Saram in Sanskrit, or verse number 19 of Upadesa Unthiyar in Tamil. So basically I will chant those verses first, and then let's try to elaborate on that. So the Sanskrit verse goes as ahamayam kuto bhavati chinvata aipatatyaham nija vicharanam. Ahamayam kuto bhavati chinvata aipatatyaham nija vicharanam. And the translation is aham, I am aham kutaha bhavati, that is this I thought, from where is it coming? So the one who thinks like that, one who thinks like this, from where is this I thought coming? That is, I am aham kutaha bhavati chinvata. So one who thinks like that, when one thinks from where is this I thought comes, I aham patati, hey, this ego or the sense of I, the I notion, patati, goes away, it gets destroyed, and he says, nija vicharanam. This is the true inquiry, nija vicharanam. So the true inquiry is, Bhagavan says, when you ask the question, from where is this I thought is coming? And when you inquire like that, then you will find that I thought disappearing. So that's the translation. Let's elaborate on that. But before elaborating on that, I would like to share the verse in Tamil also, in Upadesa Unthiyar. நானன்றலுமிடம் ஏதென நாட உள் நான் தலை சாய்ந்திடும் முந்தி பர, நான் தலை சாய்ந்திடும் முந்தி பர, ஞான விசாரம் இதுந்தி பர. நான் என்று எழும் இடம், that is from where this I thought is coming. ஏது என நாட உள், then when you inquire within as to where it is coming from, then that நான் தலை சாய்ந்திடம், that I falls the Sanskrit term, and here in Tamil also, Bhagavan uses the word it falls. It falls, never to rise again. Nan thalai saindidum. And he goes on to say, Jnana Vicharam idu. This is the inquiry which will lead you to the knowledge of the self. So that is the translation of verse number 19 of Upadesa Saram and Upadesa Unthiyar. So the gist of it is this: when you inquire from where is this I thought is coming, when you start inquiring, then that I thought falls. The I thought falling, let's not take it lightly, that is the fall of the ego. So Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi is simply saying the way to get rid of the ego is just inquire. Inquire into what? From where is this I thought coming? So when you start inquiring as to from where this I thought is coming, then the I thought will disappear. The I thought will fall. And that disappearance of this I thought, the falling of that I thought, is the disappearance or destruction of ego. And therefore Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi says, Nija Vicharanam, that is the true inquiry. Why it is true inquiry? Because that is the inquiry which leads to the knowledge of the truth. So when we inquire something, the purpose of inquiry is to know the truth. When you ask a question, you are interested in knowing the truth about something. When you say, what is the color of the blood? What are you interested? You are interested in the truth of the color, about the blood. That what the one aspect of the truth of blood is, it's red in color. So whenever you inquire something, the intention of that is to know the truth about something. Seeking knowledge is also, the intention of that is to know the truth about something. So here Bhagavan says, Nija Vicharanam. So the purpose of inquiry is to know the truth. And what is the truth we are trying to inquire? The highest truth, the only truth, the absolute truth, which remains true. So that is what self-knowledge is. So Nija Vicharanam. So that is the true inquiry. So now let's try to understand. Okay, if he says, from where is this I thought coming? When you inquire into that, then he says, the I thought will fall. And why is it that Nija Vicharana? When the I thought falls, when the ego falls, that is the equivalent to ignorance gone, then the knowledge shines. So definitely it leads to the truth. So now let's try to understand how this inquiry into from where is this I thought coming results in the I thought falling. So usually when we entertain any thought, I thought I am this, our attention is on the content of the thought. Our attention is usually always in the content of the thought. If I am saying I am a person, I am a man, I am so and so, I am this, I am that. So whenever I say that, my attention is referring to whatever which comes after that word I. So that I thought, I am person. So my attention is on whatever which contributes to this person, this personality. So our attention is always on these finite definitions. Now, what Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi is saying is that inquire into not the content of the I thought, not the content of the I thought, but he is pushing us to inquire into the very source and the very origin of that I thought. From where is this I thought coming? Ask the question. So, by saying that, he is pushing us to pay attention to the source and the origin of the I thought. So, that has to be clearly understood. So, not the what is inside the thought, not what is the content of the thought, but the source and origin of the I thought. Interestingly, the source and origin of the I thought, the query or the quest for the source and origin of the I thought will lead to the one from where this I thought arises. When you ask this question, from where this I thought arises, it is from me. So, instead of concentrating on the I thought, from where this I thought arises, now that is bringing our attention to the one to whom this I thought is occurring. Now, this I thought is finite, and this I thought could be of many things, but that source and origin of that I thought, the source and origin of the I thought is not finite, it's indefinite, meaning it's indefinable, it's infinite, from which these finite thoughts come. So, but what Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi is trying to push us to is, if these finite thoughts are coming, from where these finite thoughts come, the source and origin of that finite thought should be infinite. And what is that infinite source? That is your own self. So, that infinite source is indescribable. Yes, it is indescribable, it is infinite, and it is unthinkable. But you are that. So, you don't have to think of it. You are that. So, you don't have to think of it. So, the whole idea of inquiring into from where this I thought is arising, or the source and origin of this I thought, should lead to myself. Myself, which is infinite, because the I thought is finite. So, whatever I could say as I am this, is finite. But that finite has infinite as a source. That's why any number of finites can come from this. Any number of I thoughts can come. Any number of I thoughts in terms of anything can come. I can say I am a person, I can say I am a man, I can say I am this, I am that. So, various definitions, and any number of definitions come from that source. If various definitions and any number of definitions can come from that source is infinite, number one. But that source can't be different from me, because I am knowing that thought. It is coming from me. So, I am that infinite source. I am that indescribable source. I am that unthinkable source. When you stumble on this experience, then the I thought loses its meaning. Then you discover your existence. You discover your existence without the I thought. When you inquire as to from where this I thought is coming, you will discover that source from where this I thought comes is not dependent on this I thought for it to exist. So you discover the independent existence of that source, that it is independent of the I thought. It doesn't require I thought for it to exist. And you discover that you exist without the existence of I thought. Actually, the I thought needs you. You don't need I thoughts. We think the other way around. We think that we have to think I am this for us to exist. But if you inquire into this properly, you will discover that the I thought requires me for them to exist. And I don't need these thoughts for me to exist. So that I stumble on my own existence, which is free from these I thoughts. The moment you discover your existence, which is free from these I thoughts, then you no longer resort to I thoughts. You no longer resort to I thoughts, imagining that I have to think of me like this for me to exist. You discover your independent existence. Independent existence. Independent of what? Independent of I thoughts. So all this time you were imagining these I thoughts are essential for you to exist. In other words, this ego or ahankar or ignorance, we were holding on to it dearly, imagining that these thoughts are needed for me to exist. Only when you do this inquiry, from where this I thought arises, then you discover the source of this I thought is independent of the I thought, because the I thought is the product of the source, which is you are. So when you discover that, that is true self-discovery, and that's the point at which you discover the meaninglessness of holding on to these I thoughts or ahankar. Then that drops off. You no longer resort to these definitions thinking that you need them for your own existence. When you no longer resort to these definitions for your own existence, then they fall off, and that is the way the ignorance goes away. That's how the ahankara goes away. And that's why Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi says, aham patati, that I notion, that I am an individual, I am a finite entity, that falls, or ahankara falls. Then that falls, then you are who you are, and you experience that. And that is the very purpose of this inquiry, nija vicharanam. So in Sanskrit he says that is the nija vicharanam, meaning inquiry that which leads to the truth. And in Tamil also is a jnana vichara. So the inquiry should lead to knowledge. What knowledge? The highest knowledge, the knowledge which is the source of all the other knowledges. So, though we may regard this removal of ignorance, removal of this ahankara is a difficult thing, it's a complex thing, especially when you read very many textbooks, etc. Here Bhagavan Ramana has shown us a very simple way. Just one simple technique, only one technique. From where is this I thought coming? So, instead of focusing on the content of the thought and what you do with that, you just focus on from where, the source, the origin of this I thought, and holding your attention to that origin or the source of I thought, which is you yourself. So basically here he has shown a technique, a simple technique to hold your attention with you. When you hold your attention with you, you will discover who you are, because whenever your attention falls on something, you discover that. Your attention falls on a tree, then you see, this is a tree. The knowledge of the tree takes place. Your attention falls on a chair, then the knowledge of the chair takes place. So when your attention is with you, you discover yourself. So that is the means to self-discovery, and that is what Bhagavan Ramana says as true inquiry, nija vicharanam. Om Namo Baghavate Shri Ramanaya.